Hello everyone, my name's Tomato Anus. Today is October 18th, 2024, and this is the Patreon Speedrun Explained retrospective series where I watch an old video of mine and I take notes during on things it does and doesn't do well so that I can frickin' make better videos, right? Here, let's go. Let's see, there's some notes. Today, or first I should say, if you're watching this video in October of 2025, whoa, my chair, big creak. I really need to get a new chair. My lord, if you're watching this in October 2025 and I haven't gotten a new chair, freaking DM me or something and tell me off. If you're watching this in October of 2025, you could have watched this a whole year sooner by going to patreon.com/tomatoanus and subscribing, supporting there at the middle tier and up. At the current date, it is a $6 tier and up. You get access to these as they release. But what are we doing today, everybody? We are covering the speedrun to get laid in Fallout 4. I don't know if this is the world record anymore, actually. Let me check that real quick. It is not. I have to edit that. Let me edit that right now. There we go, all fixed. No longer world record. That was really bad of me for letting that go so long with that still saying world record. I did not realize that was still like that. That is my bad. It was world record when it released. What do I remember about this? I remember the game being in German and talking about that. I feel like I remember talking about that as I was going up the hill or in the vault. I remember clearly something around that time. Apparently, sponsored by Ridge. Still use that tropical wallet. But I honestly don't remember a whole lot about this video, if I'm being honest. I released it right before GDQ. This video came out January 4th, 2020, day after my birthday. And I was working on this Sekiro video while I released this. I believe I must have put this together pretty quickly and worked on this in the background. Because I remember for Sekiro, when I left for AGDQ, which was, let's see, this was likely uploaded like 2 days after that, January 9th. So yeah, I probably uploaded this like the day before I left for GDQ. I remember I was doing script revisions on this in the airport on my way to AGDQ. So this was still in the process of being made, and I put this together. I honestly do not remember much about this video. I really don't. I don't remember how in detail I go. I don't remember how specific things are explained. I'm genuinely curious. As for thumbnail, I like the thumbnail. I love this type of art where it's like, you know, color blocked. I love that. If I were to remake it, I would probably change the red circle to black or something. Just because the red with the white isn't a good look. I don't think that this comes across as necessarily, you know, I don't think this comes across as like dog whistly or anything. I think it's pretty clear the coloring of the red is just the same as her dress, and I did this style of thumbnail a lot with the circles. But I would probably change that to black. Maybe I will do that after I upload this. You know what? Let's do that right now. All right, well, I just changed it so it's a black circle. It won't appear yet, though, for some reason, even though I refreshed the page. Anyway, I think that's about all I can think about before this. I genuinely do not remember much about this. It was the last time I covered Fallout for a good handful of videos. I covered it here, and then I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 without. And now here I do 1, 2, I guess this 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I guess it felt long. It felt long because this was like late summer and this was middle of winter. And then this was like close to late summer as well. So it was my last time covering Fallout for a bit. We will see how I kind of last cover Fallout before going through a very big growth spurt in these videos, because I think it was like with these next few videos, I would say this one especially, the Mirror's Edge one, which I'm very excited to be getting to soon. With these videos, I definitely grew a lot as a creator and a writer and an editor, namely editing. And I feel like we'll see a lot of improvement by the time we get to this in just a few months. So very excited for this stretch. We will see how I last covered Fallout before this stretch where I grew a lot. Let's do it.
This video is sponsored by Ridge.
Woo!
Ridge sells products like backpacks, power banks, and have over a dozen different wallet designs to choose from. The Ridge wallet has over 30,000 5-star reviews, a minimal design to streamline what you carry every day, as well as a lifetime warranty. Get 10% off your order today with free worldwide shipping and returns by going to
Man, look at that fat stack of singles.
.com/anus. Yes, that's correct. And use code ANUS to get 10% off with free shipping and returns. Link is in the description. Hey everyone, my name's Tomato Anus, also known as the voice trying to tell you that you're in a coma.
That's one of my all-time favorite ones.
And this is a 6% speedrun of Fallout 4. Now, it's likely that you've already seen this run in my Fallout Anthology.
Oh, god damn it. Why did I do that?
4. Now, it's likely that you've already seen this run.
By this run, I mean this category, not this exact run. Yeah, I hate the 2-frame on-screen flash. I thought I was being clever. I hate when people do this now. It's super easy to navigate to it on PC by using, this is like what, 5 frames? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, so it's on screen for 10 frames. I hate when people do this. Mainly because it's really hard to navigate on mobile. On desktop, it's no issue because you can just do period and comma to do frame advance and reverse. Really sucks to read on mobile, though. So I hate this. I hate that I did this.
In my Fallout Anthology 6% run. However, that run was about 11 months ago, and a lot has changed since then in Fallout 4. A lot is still the same, though. We still limit our frame rate to 60 FPS to make sure that the speed of the physics are the same for everyone running. We still play in German since it has the fastest dialogue in the intro of the game. We still play in 60 FPS to make sure that the speed of the lot is still the same though. We still limit our frame rate to 60 FPS to make sure that the speed of the physics.
It's funny, you can see if you watch the arrow, it pops in because I didn't know how to fade things in at this point.
The same though. We still limit our frame rate to 60 FPS.
It just pops.
Sure
it just appears.
The physics are the same
I did not know how to fade
running.
things in or out.
We still play in German since it has the fastest dialogue in the intro of the game. We still play on very easy to mitigate damage, which actually is a huge part of the run now. We still don't count loading screens into our final time.
Jeez.
We still cycle through our characters in a certain pattern to time out where Codsworth will be to save a second. We still walk around in the pre-war house just interacting with everything to get through it as quickly as possible. We still max out charisma and agility while dumping the rest into endurance because we need to be smooth as butter to sleep with our partner later on, and also maxing agility over endurance is more effective in regards to allowing us to sprint in this scenario. And the goal
I worded that really weird. Is more effective in regards
to allowing us to sprint in this scenario.
Why didn't I just say we why we do agility over endurance because it lets us sprint longer. It's more efficient stats wise for sprinting. Why did I word it like this? Like I've never spoken to another goddamn human in my life. Like, why did I word it that way? Really weird wording. The interesting thing with this segment to me, though, is kind of my approach to this. This is a very interesting way to kind of go over info I've already done while still reminding. I like how I kind of framed it, because I didn't frame it as, hey, remember, I guess I kind of did. I didn't frame it as straight up reminder, By the way, we're doing this so that this and this and this and this and this. I'm not doing it at the most minute level of detail here. I'm just kind of hitting the surface level, but I'm still reminding, but I'm framing it as we still do this, we still do this, we still do this, rather than framing it as reminder, this and this.
Yeah.
I kind of
Endurance,
like this.
We still walk around.
It's like a very sly way of retreading info while making the viewer feel in the know already. I like this. This is good.
In the pre-war house, just interacting with everything to get through it as quickly as possible. We still max out charisma and agility while dumping the rest into endurance because we need to be smooth as butter to sleep with our partner later on, and also maxing agility over endurance is more effective in regards to allowing us to sprint in this scenario. And the goal of the run is still to sleep with someone as fast as possible. A lot is still the same. I mean, I guess I could have just said that from the get-go and not necessarily listed a bunch of individual things, but I got carried away. I apologize for that. Let's move on to the things that are different.
Okay, I like that. That was a kind of a fun way to hang a lamp. What's it called? Hang a lampshade on that. I like that I called out specifically what I was doing and acknowledged, like, okay, one, this is the break from the old info to the new. I thought that was good. And it would also just kind of, poked a little fun at the fact that I was repeating a lot of information, even though I did it in a, I feel, pretty smooth way that's not patronizing.
Now, there are really just two big things that are different, but they're big enough to warrant this new video on the category. To explain one of them, I'm going to need a visual aid, so why not just use a visual aid for both? Seeing as the beginning of the run is pretty stale with just walking around the house, let's move the gameplay somewhere out of the way for the time being. The first glitch that needs some explaining is definitely the more simple of the two. The community hasn't really decided on an official name for it, but we mostly refer to it as the elevator clip into the vault.
Wow.
In Fallout 4,
This is nuts. Wow. Interesting. Okay, I kind of like this. This is cute. Elevator clip into the vault. Okay, so the Clive was new. This was renamed, or is typically called Clive, for clip into vault elevator. That was funny. I did not expect my editing to be to a level where I could actually do that. That feels pretty advanced for where I was at. Let's see how this plays out. How well I utilize this time to explain with the visual aid.
Gameplay somewhere out of the way for the time being. The first glitch that needs some explaining is definitely the more simple of the two. The community hasn't really decided on an official name for it, but we mostly refer to it as the elevator clip into the vault.
I'm pretty sure it was someone who commented on this video that suggested the name Clive. And yes, Andrew J. Vaughn, congrats. We still call it Clive, Andrew J. Vaughn.
In Fallout 4, you enter Vault 111 via a large elevator platform that slowly lowers you downwards. It was originally discovered that if you spam both escape and quick save, that you'll slowly clip through the platform as it's moving down. If you do it fast enough, you'll fully clip through the elevator and fall downwards. It turns out, though, that quick saving...
This is amazing. I had totally forgotten about this. This is great. This is super early. This is, I think, the first animation I've ever done like this. Yeah, I think this is the first time I've ever done an animation like this.
Is entirely
I actually love this. This is amazing.
Elevator and fall downwards. It turns out, though, that quick saving is entirely unnecessary to perform this glitch. All you have to do is press escape fast enough. Quick saving was only used at first because spamming it lags the game a little bit, allowing for you to enter more escape inputs in a shorter span of time in the game. Instead, just pressing escape fast enough does the trick, and is slightly faster than pressing quick save as well. You have to really spam escape though, to the point where it's easier to just bind your scroll wheel to the escape button. This can be used in two spots. As soon as the elevator begins lowering for the first time after the nuke goes off, and also once you actually load inside the vault. For the
I'm just going to stop now before I get too far away from that explanation of how it works. That was actually really good. I was really impressed by that. I think that the visual works perfectly for that glitch. I think it's a glitch that's really easily understood with a simple visual. I think that the combination of the kind of janky spamming of pause and quick save, I think the kind of janky nature of that at the start, transitioning then into a really fast spamming of escape of pause, really worked. And I think that the the janky nature of the drawing is just charming. I really love that. I would like to do animations more like that, but I feel like as of late, I just haven't really had many runs that require animations like that. I think the most recent is probably this. What a good ad read. I think the most recent is probably Half-Life 2, but I feel like I really haven't done much animation in a while, really. I think Control had a little bit. When I think back to videos with a lot of animation, though, I think BioShock, I think Subnautica. These are the big two. Subnautica, especially the whole dog tooth segment in the middle, that took me like 2 days to animate. I think it looks great, but I do love those janky animations. I should do them more. I did do some animations in this, but I think, it's part of the charm. I think it's part of the charm. I really loved that in this.
First scenario, if you're able to drop through the platform in time before the platform reaches the loading zone, you'll fall down into the loading zone yourself and move the game onto the next section where you're on the elevator inside of the vault.
I think it would have been nice to have this, maybe we go back down, riveting gameplay goes away for a second again, and I have a trigger drawn. I would probably do that nowadays, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was well beyond my capabilities at this point. But that's 100% something I would include now.
Overall, this is skipping a relatively short elevator ride, and if done well, would only save 1 to 2 seconds. Most members of the community, including myself, have decided that it's not worth the go for because the time save is too small to justify the mental strain that is caused from having to reset a ton for messing up your escape spamming. The second scenario that I mentioned earlier, the one inside the vault, is a bit more beneficial to perform. Normally, when you ride the elevator to the bottom, there's a metal grate that serves as an elevator door, and you have to wait for it to open before progressing. A bit more justify the
It's a little jarring. I'm not going to comment too heavily on it. I know it was just my capabilities. It's a little jarring having this go down and having the gameplay immediately behind it. Maybe if it was black again and then we fade in, that would be a bit better.
Strain that is caused from having to reset a ton for messing up your escape spamming. The second scenario that I mentioned earlier, the one inside the vault, is a bit more beneficial to perform. Normally, when you ride the elevator to the bottom, there's a metal grate that serves as an elevator door, and you have to wait for it to open before progressing. However, if you spam escape to drop down the elevator shaft early enough, the collision on the grating isn't loaded and you can just walk right through it, skipping both the elevator ride down and also skipping having to wait for the grating to open.
The timing on this gameplay coming back up a little confusing. I feel like I get what I'm doing here and I really like it. I'm not showing the glitch as it happens. I'm not showing it when it's explained. It's simple enough where the concept can be captured in someone's mind, similar to how the animation helps, get that visual in mind beforehand. You don't need to see it happen. Because if you just show it happen in the run, you lose out a little bit of suspense. And I think that's something that I really got in the habit of doing. I remember doing it like in the Bloodborne video, just like kind of showing things done successfully from the run. I think that it's better to get the point across. If you can, it's best to get the point across of what's going to happen and have the viewer be able to kind of visualize what's going to happen without actually showing it to them. Because then when they see it actually happen and they make that connection, like, it's a little like, oh shit, I get it, which is a great feeling, and it's great to feel like you understand what's happening, right? That's like the best case scenario, is you explain something so clearly that the viewer is anticipating it to happen and they see it, and it's like a little like endorphin rush or serotonin of like, oh, I get it, I understand it. Like, that's the point of these videos, is for people to understand it. So if you can get them to understand it when it happens, big bonus. So like, by not spoon feeding it to them, by not showing them the exact thing happening, makes it a little better, right? Now, the issue here,
When you ride the elevator to the bottom, there's a metal grate that serves as an elevator door, and you have to wait for it to open before progressing.
perfect.
However,
Maybe bump this footage up a little bit, right? So that this footage is like a few seconds earlier, and then have the riveting gameplay come back and have this fade away. So we're no longer focused on this footage, because the confusing part is when this line begins to overlap with this footage, right? Like, pay attention to what this line is telling you and what you're seeing with this footage, why it's confusing. This footage is the focus during this line, which is not good.
that serves as an elevator door, and you have to wait for it to open before progressing. However, if you spam escape to drop down the elevator shaft early enough, the collision on the grating isn't loaded, and you can just
It's not until like the riveting gameplay is like almost a quarter of the screen that you realize your focus should be here and to stop paying attention to here. And that
escape
happens
to drop down the elevator shaft early enough, the collision
like
on
now,
the grating
right? When I've already been talking about the other stuff, I've been looking at this footage still, and it's just a little confusing. So I'd want to shift the footage forward a little bit, make it disappear sooner, make the riveting gameplay come back a little bit sooner. Ideally, I could show an animation. If I wanted to keep the gameplay down, I could show an animation in the background here where I show like dropping down and then walking through. It's possible, again, beyond my capabilities at this time, but the gameplay at least should have been shifted.
isn't loaded, and you can just walk right through it, skipping both the elevator ride down and also skipping having to wait for the grating to open. Overall, this saves roughly 15 to 18 seconds. The only issue with this is that the elevator shaft is pretty tall, so you take some fall damage from clipping through the platform.
That
In
sucks.
fact, if you perform the clip too early, you'll take too much fall damage and either die or break your leg, causing you to move slowly.
And there you go. The viewer understands what's going to happen. They have a solid idea in advance, and some stakes are established.
Both of these end the run. If you perform the clip too late, then you won't be able to make it to the grating in time before the collision loads, and you'll have to wait for the platform to catch up and sit through things as normal. The timing that I employ in my runs is to begin my spamming about half a second after my HUD reappears in the game. We're arriving at this part in the run, so let's see how it played out.
This is done perfectly. Perfect. That was done really, really well. Exactly what I want. Woo!
This worked out almost perfectly. Ideally, you want to drop from as high as possible without breaking your leg or dying, since that means you skip more of the elevator ride. The fact that you can hear my character's heartbeat and that I have the woozy screen effect means that I'm close to death, meaning that I felt almost the maximum amount of height possible without dying. The only issue with this in sex percent is that it increases our likelihood of dying later on, since we typically have to run past a lot of enemies. I have a slight workaround for that, but we'll get to that later. For now, we have some other things to explain. First is punch warping.
All right. Good so far. I planted the seed for an explanation later with saying
A lot of enemies. I have a slight workaround for that, but we'll get to that later.
I like that.
For
Adds a little intrigue to the second half of the video that we're going to be waiting
now,
for.
we have some other things to explain. First is punch warping. I've explained punch warping a lot in older videos of mine, so I'll keep this brief. If you try to melee attack something in VATS, but your movement is obstructed, then you can cancel your attack and store the coordinates of where you were standing.
Again, this footage should be shifted slightly. This line should have ended once I finished setting it up.
The next time you use VATS, if you use a melee attack, you get teleported back to those coordinates as they correspond to the coordinate grid in your current cell. If you don't know what a cell is, don't worry, I'll explain that in a second as well. Another thing to
I could have just said real quick, a cell is the loaded level. You know, I feel like I didn't need to kick that down the curb anymore.
go over quickly is item climbing. Again, I've explained this ad nauseum.
I do like the repeated showings though. Ooh, and we had a fade transition.
Another thing to go over quickly is item climbing. Again, I've explained this ad nauseum, but
Whoa.
keeping it brief, if you hold an object under you, you can climb up walls and shit. When we use a cone, we call it VLC clipping. We use this to skip most of the vault. The big thing to explain is COC2. COC stands for
Wow. This is like the first time. There's a lot of firsts in this video. The glitch name being called out on screen is big. Big, big, big. I know that's something that I know that's something that I really focus on in the Mirror's Edge video, and that's something I still do to this day.
center on cell and refers to what happens when you fall out of bounds. First though, for those unaware, what is a cell? Cell is the technical term in the game's engine for a location. Cells are usually self-contained. Vault 111 itself is a full cell. The insides of buildings that you have to load into are cells. The wasteland itself is a cell, although that's a bit more nuanced since it's made up of a ton of smaller cells that load in chunks, but that's a lesson for another day. Back to COC or center on cell. If you happen to fall out of bounds, it would be pretty dumb if you fell forever, so COC is implemented so that you eventually hit an invisible
This is great. This is great. I love this.
plane, and once you hit that plane, you're transported back to solid ground in a preset COC location. Each cell has its own COC location, and some have multiple, but if you fall out of bounds, you'll eventually hit the invisible plane and get warped back. Alternatively, if you fall underneath this cell and are directly underneath normal ground, you'll get warped directly upwards to the ground when you hit the COC plane. This is referred to as an upwarp. You only get sent to the COC location upon hitting the plane if there's no ground directly above you. The COC plane does have a finite edge to it though, meaning that you can fall beyond its extents. If you do this, there's luckily a second COC plane much further down that some people believe may just be the cell floor, and we refer to it as COC2. Hitting this plane
This is
behaves the
actually
same as
incredible. This is so good. I'm really blown away by this. This is like really well done for how limited I was with how I could edit. It's explaining clearly. It's, you know, things are unfolding really nicely.
the
on it.
normal COC plane, with a notable exception that was discovered. If you fall beneath the elevator in Vault 111,
That was a little
with
confusing,
a
though.
notable exception that was discovered. If you fall beneath the elevator in Vault 111, when you hit the COC plane, you get covered.
This is
If you
where
fall
like
beneath-
like this popping in at the same time as this then beginning to fade into a normal COC plane, really confusing.
normal COC plane, with a notable exception that was discovered. If you fall beneath the elevator in Vault 111, when you hit the COC plane, you get warped back to the COC location outside of the cryopod. However, if you hit the COC2 plane beneath the elevator, you get upwarped to the top of the elevator shaft, which places you in the loading zone to exit the vault, immediately bringing you outside. This skips having to ride the elevator and saves around 30 to 40 seconds. In a moment, we'll gain control of our character and employ all the things I just talked about. The first thing we're going to do is grab the security baton, which allows for us to use VATS. If we don't grab it, then we wouldn't be able to use VATS with the current route we take through the vault.
In all, great
With the baton in
explanation.
our possession, we
Great
grab a
explanation.
nearby
Of course, could be a little bit better, but generally, I would say really happy with how that turned out, even this long down the road after.
cone and perform the first of 2 VLC clips. Unfortunately, cones can't phase through walls, so we have to grab a new one and then set up our punch warp on some rad roaches to store our coordinates. We then perform our second VLC clip, which lets us dance on the ceiling like Lionel Richie. We then run and jump out of bounds past the COC plane, where we turn around and fall back under the elevator and quick save quick load. Quick saving and quick loading skips having to fall the full way and causes for us to hit the next COC plane below us, making us hit the COC2 plane and immediately upwarp into the load zone. Once we finish loading, we'll be outside riding the elevator up to the surface. The physics-defying feats don't stop here though, because we still have a punch warp to trigger. Upon gaining control, we're going to carefully run down the hill, making sure we don't take any fall damage to further reduce our already depleted health bar. We then run up to one of the nearby houses in Sanctuary and melee attack a Radroach in Vats, which triggers our punch warp, warping us to the coordinates we had stored. In the Wasteland, the coordinates that we stored correspond to nearby Green Tech Genetics, which is in the center of the map. However, the Z coordinate we stored put us under the map, but we're able to upwarp back onto solid ground by just falling for a bit in the void. When we arrive back to the earthly plane, we have to try and make it to Good Neighbor, where our sleeping partner awaits. Normally, the fastest running route to get to Good Neighbor is to run through a nearby raider encampment, run across a super long bridge, and run through a door that's guarded by a raider and their pet doggo. This route has a high likelihood of taking damage, and if you don't remember, we're so messed up from the drop when we entered the elevator that even 200 years later, we can hear our heart beating in our head, which, I'm not a doctor, but that definitely does not seem healthy.
It doesn't.
Instead of the risky running route, we took the little puss route of swimming through the Charles River, which loses us about a second, but guarantees we take very little damage. On land, we catch a glimpse of the dog I mentioned earlier in the corner of our eye and have a panic attack and start sprinting towards Good Neighbor. As we sprint down the road, I make like Alan Arkin and Serpentine to avoid getting shot and also mash E while I do so. This is because the first time your health drops below a certain threshold in your playthrough, you get a pop-up telling you your health is low.
Yep, there
I
it
spammed
was.
E in anticipation of getting hit, only to stop spamming and get hit unexpectedly right afterwards. I enter Good Neighbor via a back alley that I still am unsure of whether or not it's intentional, and as I enter the loading zone, I made sure to stop sprinting. Because I'm not sprinting when I enter the load zone, when I finish loading, my AP bar will be fully replenished, allowing me to sprint again. We then can run on over to the third rail, where our horizontal dance partner is putting on a show. In order to speak with Magnolia, we need her to finish her song. Luckily, we can force her to stop by attacking a patron, which angers everyone inside. By putting away our baton though, they all forgive us and we can speak to Magnolia and hopefully strike her fancy. Magnolia will sometimes reject your advances, showing that even being a quantum anomaly sometimes won't be enough for some people. Fortunately for us, Magnolia seemed to like our general demeanor and agrees to spend a night alone with us. The run officially ends after the screen fades to black. Because this ended up being a world record, we had to continue on with tradition and challenge Magnolia to a battle to the death after our coital engagement. If you made it to the end of the run, I'd like to say thank you, and also would like to specifically say thank you to those of you who choose to support the channel on Patreon. If you want to support and you're also interested in development updates on videos, early access to sponsor-free versions of videos, and also the occasional Patreon exclusive Fanfiction Friday video, head on over there and drop as little as $1 a month. It's entirely unnecessary, but I truly do appreciate those of you who choose to support anyways. Also, if you have any video recommendations or feedback, hop into my Discord where we have channels for specifically those things. Link is in the description. That's all for this video though. This was a 6% speedrun of Fallout 4. I've been Tomato Anus, and I hope you have an above average day.
Wow. Wow. Very nice. Very nice. Overall, I was really impressed with that video, to be honest. I thought that was much better than I was. It was much better than I was anticipating. It really was good. I felt like the explanations were really solid, pretty succinct. I thought that they were really clear. The visuals were really nice. A little light on humor, which was okay. None of the humor particularly landed for me. I think it was just generally fine, but the explanations, I'd say, really good. I genuinely had no clue what to expect. I feel like some of my videos around this time, you know, with it being right on the cusp of when I feel like I started making really solid videos, I was kind of like, oh, we'll see how these are, you know? But that was very promising. I was very, very, very pleased with that. And yeah, just overall, I'd say surprisingly really solid. Um, it does make me want to try and make a bit more like, you know, be a bit more laissez-faire when it comes to editing and like drawing things. It's like I'm a pretty shitty artist on a computer, and I think that's really fun. So I think I might try and kind of um capture that a bit more when I do animations. But honestly, like I don't I don't know. I just haven't had to do animations much lately. I don't know what it is. I do not know what it is. But next time it is something that's in the cards, I'm gonna try and, you know, be a bit more true to my roots. Not saying I'm gonna intentionally make it shitty. I'm gonna be able to make it as I do now with like my editing style and abilities. But yeah, I'm gonna I really like that. That was cute. As for what I wrote down, I said that the intro recaps everything that's going to happen under the framing of we still do this, we still do that, which I felt summarized the early parts of the run that are often repeated in a way that wasn't patronizing to returning viewers and still got the gist of everything that was going to happen for newer viewers, which I thought was great. The MS Paint animation of Clive was excellent. It was charming and simple, and it got the point across. Yeah, I really, really liked that. I just waxed poetic about it for a bit. Gameplay that was overlapping with the commentary was just a little unfortunately placed where it seemed like the explanation of what was going on happened to sync up with the incorrect footage. That wasn't too great. I think that's the big mistake for me in my mind with this video was the footage could have synced up a little bit better and it could have been a bit more. Oh my God, look at this freaking dog. Look at how she's laying there. What the heck? I got to take a picture of that. But just felt like generally it was, you know, a little off in that department. But overall, I'd say really good video. I was impressed by it. Definitely some takeaways. Yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you guys as always for watching. I'm looking forward to next one where I'll be doing I think I'm just gonna be skipping the anthology one because it wasn't a scripted one. I don't see what I could necessarily glean from it, but I'm sure I'll revisit this sometime on stream or something. But next time we will be doing the Sekiro video that I made with Lil Aggie, who himself has established a very sizable following on YouTube, which is awesome. Super happy for the dude. And yeah, I'm super excited to return to this. I love Sekiro. It's one of my favorite From Software games. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting on Patreon if you're supporting there. As always, feel free to leave comments. I love seeing your guys' thoughts on this, whether you agree, disagree, things I missed, all that kind of stuff. So leave a comment, or if there's anything you want me to talk about in the future, feel free to leave a comment about that. But until then, thank you again, everyone, and peace.